Thanks for the introduction. I hate following up behind Brian because my suit don't fit as nice. And man, we actually went to the same gym. Oh, cut brother right there. Seriously, this is exciting to see so many faces in the audience, a lot of new faces, a lot of familiar faces, and Brian actually kind of mentioned a couple of things in his intro that lets me know we're going in the right direction. He mentioned Atlanta in particular, and before I begin, as he mentioned, this is a conversation. If I do my job well, we'll facilitate some conversation. I kind of want to hear from you all. I don't know it all. We have way too many intelligent people in this room for us not to hear from everybody that's present right now. But he mentioned Atlanta, he mentioned Charlotte, and we're doing phenomenally well in Birmingham, but we're only doing well by Birmingham standards. So by that I mean, it looks like we're doing a lot, but in actuality, we're still getting lapped. We're still lagging behind a lot of our peer cities, and a lot of the cities that are looking up to Birmingham are about to lap us as well. They're gonna pass us. Metro-wide, last year we did 3,000 jobs, which is good. Charlotte did that last month. Nashville's doing the same. Austin's doing the same. Portland, you name it. All of these thriving and dynamic cities that we look to kind of benchmark our performance against, and we're making progress, and that's not to discount any of the things that we're doing, but we gotta get to a point in Birmingham where good is not good enough, right? We gotta start shooting for excellence and start shooting for greatness, and we come from a pedigree that fought, so if we can have financial inclusion, we come from folks who laid the foundation for us. So in what better city than Birmingham for us to do that in? I actually just got back from Atlanta a week ago, and they had the Hope Global Forum there. And I'm sharing all of this just to kind of give some context to see how we ended up here, where are we going, right? You can't fight an enemy unless you know the enemy. You gotta know where you come from. And they had a panel, it's Operation Hope Forum. If it sounds familiar, it's the flagship event from Operation Hope, which has kind of taken on this reputation as the premier institution in America for Black financial inclusion, financial literacy, for entrepreneurship. And at the first panel, they had Ben Jealous, the former CEO of the NAACP. They had Van Jones, who was a former Green Czar under Obama's administration. He's currently leading the Yes We Code campaign to bring technology and code into the inner city. They had John Hope Bryant, the founder of Operation Hope, and then they had the mayor of Atlanta, Kasim Reed. And the moderator asked Kasim, we're in Atlanta. It is the 8th largest economy in the nation, one of the fastest growing cities, Fortune 500 companies and regional headquarters are flocking to Atlanta seemingly every day. What was it about Atlanta that allowed them to get to that point? And he said, to understand how Atlanta rose to prominence, you have to understand why Birmingham did not. That hurt. That hurt, but it was accurate. And he didn't say it to disparage Birmingham, he was just telling it like it is. And he went down the list of differences, and when you kind of look into it, what was the difference between Atlanta and Birmingham? And to be clear, I don't think anybody would like for Birmingham to be Atlanta. We want Birmingham to be the best Birmingham that it can be, right? We want to be authentic and true to ourselves, but there are still some principles and some concepts that we can stagnation. And he talked about how there was one particular event where Dr. King had just won the Nobel Peace Prize. And so they wanted to have a reception to honor that. And Atlanta had its race problems just like Birmingham. In fact, they were about to build a wall to physically separate the Black and white residents in Atlanta. A city was created, maybe 100 feet wide, but long enough to make sure that Atlanta's Black population didn't extend into neighboring counties. So they had some serious racial issues as well. But they also had a group of people that was able to push back against that. One of those individuals was Robert Woodruff, the CEO of Coca-Cola. And he got a call from City Hall that this reception they're gonna hold for Dr. King was not gonna be attended well. You're gonna have a few black folks, but none of the white elite, none of the white businesses, and it was gonna be a PR disaster. Here, a native son just won the Nobel Peace Prize and he can't even pack out a ballroom for his honor. And so Robert Woodruff got on the phone and basically started making some veiled, not so veiled threats. You know, it'd be a shame if you lost this contract with Coca-Cola if you weren't there. And he would go to his employee, it'd be a shame if we didn't see you there, and your promotion is coming up. Your tickets will be ready at the door. So he started using his influence to kind of start twisting some arms, right? So what became, or what would have been rather a PR disaster ended up becoming a PR coup. So they had all of these individuals constantly pushing back, whether it's Ivan Allen Jr., William B. Hartsfield, the namesake for the airport, on the phrase, the city too busy to hate. All right, so you had the same racial elements that were in Atlanta, but you had something that Birmingham did not have. You had this component of people who were engaged and invested and started to push back. And they used that to position themselves as a progressive city. We might have our issues, but we stamp it out when it arises. And so if you continue to look at the differences, I think 4 things emerge, right, that let us know what elements need to be present so you can have an inclusive, a growing, and a dynamic city for everybody. I tell folks I'm a capitalist, I just want black folks to get it too, right? We're not getting it. And you have to have an engaged and an informed public. And I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of times, especially our younger generation, right? My generation, we're not at the table. We just have no clue what's going on. It's just sheer ignorance, right? I've talked to plenty of folks from Birmingham, successful folks. You know, it's like, hey, I'm in certain positions, I hear certain conversations. You might want to start paying attention to that. Birmingham ain't gonna do that. Birmingham, I'm in these positions, I'm trying to help you out, right? So there's that dynamic there. You gotta have a vision for it. And it's gotta be informed, you gotta be engaged, you gotta be at the tables. If you're not at the table, you're on the menu. It's one or the other, right? So you gotta be engaged and informed public. You also need an engaged and informed corporate community, right? And we saw that with the example with Robert Woodruff and Coca-Cola. I realize now how important the philanthropic community is. And I think we have a great example of that in Birmingham. We're one of the most giving cities in the entire nation. And you look at organizations like the Community Foundation and the impact that they're able to make. And a lot of times they do work that is thankless. They are major sponsors of the Birmingham Violence Reduction Initiative. They have funded plenty of projects, different initiatives ranging all the way over from West End to downtown. And it's important to have that component as well. The one component we don't do well out of those 4 is government, right? We just do not do a good job with that. I told somebody that and they would say, well, look around. Birmingham is kind of booming. You don't think they had something to do with that? I mean, I told them when it takes us less than a year to pass Uber legislation, ask me that question again, right? It shouldn't take us that long to do something that simple. And the sentiment is that we're excelling in spite of government, not because of it. So we have to get that component right. And the reason I bring that up is because if we get that first component right, the engaged and the informed public, we can start applying pressure to that 4th component, which is very critical when it comes to making sure that people we elect are setting the policies that are going to benefit us, that are going to benefit our communities. But going back to that though, we have to make sure that we're informed and that we're engaged as well. And when I hear people say, well, we're not at the table or we're not doing work, I think it is prudent to offer some context to that. We have people that are doing remarkable work throughout our communities, whether they are in the philanthropic space, whether they are in the corporate space. They're just private citizens trying to do what they can on the weekends to give back. We have people that are doing it. But I think what happens is you take a ride down Avondale, 41st Street, which 5 years ago was derelict, it was desolate, you're more likely to run into somebody looking for a prostitute than you were somebody selling pizzas, right? But you look at it now and it's completely different. You take that same trip, but you do it on 19th Street in Inslee, and it's a tale of two cities, right? And I think folks start asking some relevant questions. Why there, why not here? There are folks who are in that space. I see my friend T. Marie King, I gotta shout you out, because I love you like that. We got Brian Gunn, he's doing remarkable work over there. Adrian Starks, I can just start calling out names. People are doing work over there. So why is it taking so long for that effort to kind of translate into the comprehensive and the holistic changes that we know Inslee and so many of our other communities deserve? My observation, given my position at REV Birmingham, I see two things, and I think they all boil down at the end into intentionality. All right, so using Avondale as a case study, you got to remember there were businesses over in Avondale trying to turn that area around for a long time. It did not take off until you had a group of individuals that said, we're just going to buy up this whole thing, this one street. We're going to be intentional about what we do on that street. We're going to speak the same language, and we're going to work this plan. And obviously, a lot of that started with the brewery, but when you buy up most of that, you can do two things. You can fight against speculation. I know it sounds technical, but it has a serious impact on the ability to do work and how much work you can do. What I mean by speculation is if you have some property and I come to you and I say, there ain't nothing going on here, I'll pay you $30,000 for it. It might be only worth $20,000. You say, hey, that's a good idea. You get wind that there's a vision for this, and I come back to you and say, here's your $30,000. You might say, well, did I say 30? I meant 130, right? And obviously you want to maximize your profit, but it's not worth that much right now. And so it kind of tamps down on the ability to change an area. Yes?
I'm gonna change it up just a little bit. All the business owners, could you raise your hand? All the business owners. Are there any questions in particular that you want to ask, related to getting to the table? Just want to make this thing as engaging as possible.
Ask away.
This is my man back here. How you doing, brother?
What's going on, man?
I want to reach up toward 5 West shopping center. And I'm also a very concerned citizen of Birmingham. I think it's very important for the community to understand what gentrification is and how gentrification works and what's not being said, which is detrimental to us as a community and as a people. You mentioned the revitalization in a way that looks good, but we know that there's an ugly beast behind gentrification, and there's a lot of exploiting, and there's a lot of misplacement of people that happens as a result of this gentrification.
Right.
You're taking advantage of people who don't have income or people who have low income. There's a lot of that going on in this process of what you call buying up the block, right? So we know the difference between Avondale and Inslee is capital. That's the difference. Major money, not little money, major money. So we have to be honest, is the point of it.
Right.
Like when we had these discussions, if you're gonna come and have a conversation with us, have an honest conversation with us. Because like right now, I really feel like we insult our intelligence by glorifying this gentrification and not giving us the truth about it and not explaining to us what's really going on.
Mm-hmm. No, definitely not trying to do that, man. But when you say gentrification, I think that's a loaded term that the definition of it gets murky, right? I prefer to focus on displacement. And I think that's a serious issue, which kind of goes back to my first point, right? We got 4 buckets: public, corporate, philanthropic, city. City creates the policy. They're not proactively setting those policies in place. Now, that will prevent mass displacement. It's happening in Avondale. I'm not trying to sell anybody a bill of goods, right? I want us all to get it, but we gotta take into account the folks who are there now. So if that 4th bucket is not doing it, it's going to be on us to start pushing for some of those policies. What are some of those policies? Let's keep it practical. If you have somebody, over 55, the assumption being that they're on fixed income, just because that property around them now has elevated, their rent should go from 500 to 700. Might not mean a lot to somebody else, to that older lady or to that person that's been there forever. Now they have to move, and probably they have to move to an area that doesn't have adequate mass transit, right? It's not walkable, right? Their whole life is going to be distance. So I'm right there with you, right? Again, I would much rather us be at the table than on the menu, right? Go ahead, sorry. Hold up. I want to get to that. So one of those policies, right? If you are there over 55, your rent stays the same. If your property value increases, it is flat. You don't have to pay it. Now, if you sell it or if you die, then it might go up to market rate. Another way to do it is what's coming out now, community and neighborhood development trust, where the community actually owns the property, right? And they have a greater say-so. So there are a lot of tools that can be used. We're not hearing that from our leaders. Again, why it's so important for us to have these conversations and focus on that first bucket.
For the business owners, has any of you all had, trying to get on, become an approved vendor and just can't do it? Has that been the case for any of you all? Any of them? Any? Okay.
My name is Rico Harris. I'm the founder of Output Magazine.
Yeah, Rico, we talk. Yeah,
we talk, man. So we just recently published our first magazine, and it was pretty tough for people to trust who we are without that proof in the pudding. And so now that we have our first publication now, things are starting to open up, and we understand that's how things work. But we are looking to network. The reason why me and my team are here today, these 3 ladies here, trying to find ways to eat at the table and not be eaten. And so we want to open up the dialogue and find out, hey, networking is not just something that what can you do for me? It's a two-way street. And it just answers the question.
Yes, thank you. I think President Kelly got a question.
I got a question for you, and it's something I hear a lot. How can business owners help, particularly black business owners, help in changing the mindset of black consumers? Because oftentimes we hear, I don't want to do business with black people because we don't do this. We don't go through with that, so I'd rather go to my counterpart. What are some of the things we could do, or business owners can do, to kind of help change that perception?
Honestly, man, you might feel like this is a simplified answer. I believe this is excellence. I honestly believe being excellent in every single thing you do, and word will get out. Again, that is my limited view. I only say that because of what I've been able to do. But I hear what you're saying in terms of that mindset. Other than actually under-promising, over-delivering, we've all heard of that. I'm not sure how you change that mindset.
I got an idea on that. You go ahead.
Get the top.
Can I add to this? One of the biggest issues I see as I first try to go to African American small businesses is there seems, as you said, not to be a level of excellence there. When you go to these individual stores, there seems to be something lacking in customer service. Immediately they want to, we identify by color, but please, while we're transacting business, let's keep this on the business level, and we can be home and hungry after the business has been transacted. And we want to go into the arrangement and say, oh, hey, because we're both from the same color, that I can talk to you in a nice manner, or you'll be okay with this kind of service. So I think one of the things we have to do is do a lot of our own stuff, small business training, how to train customer service, how to actually transact business. We need to do that because where we're relying on the SBA, they don't cover those type of things anymore. We need to do that for ourselves, for our small businesses.
Anybody else? Just have a question from an economical standpoint.
I have a question. Not everybody's going to be a business owner, but like, for example, working in corporate America, and I've dealt with this personally. How do you engage white people without offending them? Like, for example, I got a couple of white friends that I've worked with for years, and when it comes to the issue of race, I let them bring it up first, but then I bring up statistics. Like, statistically speaking, the unemployment rate for a black male is double that of a white counterpart with the same credentials. How do you keep them engaged in that conversation? Because every single time they just shut down and shut up.
And before you answer that,
excuse me, if you are driving a white Mercedes and next to the Mercedes there's a tan vehicle, you need to move because you are blocking the business owner next door.
He's getting ready to leave, trying to leave.
Let me check, make sure they're in my car.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
That last part, you said,
How do you keep them engaged when they just shut down and go, like, how do we even bring up the subject to the people of power when they won't even look at the facts that they came up with?
Right. Part of that is, I think we've had the conversation with respect. The reason I say that is because, and that's, folks who want to hear are going to hear, right? And so there's this information that's coming out now, this academic study, that shows people who believe a certain position, if you give them facts counter to that, they believe their wrong position even more. It doesn't matter how much, you know what I'm saying? We've all had that happen before, right? And so sometimes it's like, don't even worry about those folks, don't even convert those folks, right? The folks who want to hear, they'll come from a position of respect and a position of trying to understand. Everybody else, you know, so kind of getting back to that power structure, which is why it's so important for us to start building our own.
Yeah, just a little bit, you can still jump in. Anybody in here want to start their own business? Anybody? All right. I don't see that many. That can change the conversation a little bit more. But if you look over here, it's not that many. But if you look over here, you see where all of us at. You know, everybody on the job and career side. Very few people on the business side. At the end of the day, you cannot pass a job down to your kids. You cannot create a legacy off of your job. I need you to understand that. And with that, I want you to, I want Deon to share the program that they have at REV Birmingham, the 10-week program that they have for new entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs.
Yeah, just say thanks. So one of the things that we started is a Biz 1.0 introductory workshop, and then we have a 10-week business development program called Co-Starters. One of the reasons we started that is because we realized a lot of folks call us and say, hey, can you show us a building? All right, nothing wrong with having a vision, but they're not at the point where they're ready to get a building just quite. And so we needed to give them some foundational structure to what the idea was. You know, they don't tell you how to write a business plan in college, right? Like, that's not something that we all know how to do. And we actually go a step before that, when we use what's called a business model canvas. And that's just really a tool to help us identify what the assumptions are. A lot of folks will say, I have an idea, but they don't know their customers, right? What customers are you trying to target? Where do they live? What's the income? Where do they go on Sundays, right? Drilling down that level. So we have that. And then we have co-starters, right? So the assumptions that we extracted in the workshop, we test and validate through co-starters. We do that for a variety of reasons. A lot of times you start a business, it's the first business. You don't know if it's going to succeed. You don't know if people will take to it. So we try to give them practical tools so they can go out there and then validate what those assumptions are. To give you an example, we had a guy, Eugene Carney, real cool brother from Nashville, doing a hot chicken concept. And I learned this myself. Hot chicken is fried chicken, but with dry rub spices. Right? It's big in Nashville. We wanted to bring it down here. Didn't know if the market was available. We do barbecue and all this other stuff. And so we did a restaurant takeover, gave him access to his own restaurant for one day. Customers were lined up 3 hours outside of the door, but we're also getting feedback and data, right? Well, we're asking the customers if this is a real restaurant, would you go? How often would you go? Do you think the prices are fair? Do you even like the stuff, right? So we're getting all of this information that's then gonna help us iterate and move at a much slower, right, but at a much more sure pace. So what we're trying to prevent is somebody taking out a $50,000 loan or a HELOC and then sinking that into a concept that's unproven and nobody wins in that case. So we're starting to see some tremendous success from those programs, yes.
Business and professional. These are two different worlds. Business person, as you know, are visionaries. Like, we have a vision. Like, we know what we want to do. But you have professional people who have education, right? They know how to get it done. What kind of situation can we create amongst ourselves to bring these two worlds together, that those visions can become reality for us amongst ourselves?
Well, let me jump in there real fast. I'm a sales rep. I travel around probably 10 to 20 different states. I can't even remember. I know I've probably been about 400 to 500 manufacturing companies. I've only seen one African American owned company, and in all the states I've ever traveled to. But what I see, when people start their own businesses, every manufacturer, they were already working at one of those locations. They saw a service, they saw a need, they saw that we was giving somebody $1 million in contracts every year, we're giving somebody $10 million in contracts every year, whether it's consulting service, whether it's engineering service, whether it's whatever it is. So I just, encourage you, pay attention to what's going on at your job. Pay attention to your field. Look at all of the money that's coming through your company. You're working at $5 million companies, $100 million companies. There's all types of vendors that they need. So once you identify that, identify a group of people, make sure you're strong enough, go through a REV Birmingham, or go call up SCORE, Senior Corps Retired Executives, a free tutoring program in almost every city in this country. You got Innovation Depot. It's lots of resources out there. So just pay attention to what's around you, because that's how every last one of them started their business.
And then buy land and real estate. and I say that jokingly, but I'm serious, right? And the reason I'm so passionate about that is because you look at the way most wealth was created in this country. It was created through land and property, right? 1930s, FHA was created. 1944, GI Bill passes. Black folks are barred from both of those, right? So white America is building wealth. First 67,000 loans that were drawn against the GI, only 100 went to non-whites, right? So just kind of put it into perspective. And so we kind of followed, we did what they were doing. We went out to the suburbs. Now the highest rates of poverty is happening in the suburbs. Most folks say, you know what, I don't want to be stuck behind the wheel most of the time. I want to move back downtown, but we're in the suburbs now, right? So we got to be at the table. That's all I'm saying.
My apologies
Oh, she had
it's a silver BMW.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Let's let this lady go first.
Okay, we gotta take care of it.
There's some phones in here.
I know, right?
Great. Rolls Royce.
I'm viewing it blocking somebody.
I had a question as far as all the money that's being brought into the city. More so, how to become aware. Are there certain publications or subscriptions? Where should we be looking to learn about these developments? As far as I'm concerned, I see it going on, but I have no idea how it's getting started. What council is doing this, who got together to meet to talk about how much money is gonna be spent. So is there any online website, any kind of forum that we can inform ourselves of what's about to happen or what's planned to happen before we ride downtown like, oh.
You're right. And it's going to happen in Norwood, it's going to happen all over the place as well. So Brian just put the Regional Economic Growth Report. I'm assuming this is an answer to the question as well. And to the DBA, I think you got some good folks in there. In particular, I'm thinking about a couple, Wayne Jackson and Victor Brown. And they've just been tremendous resources and assets. They're kind of folks you can just call up and they'll develop a relationship with you. So just knowing some of the people, right? And also the idea about is there a form or some kind of online thing that you kind of log into and see where things are going? I don't believe that exists. That would be an awesome project for maybe somebody in this room to kind of spearhead.
What was it?
Having like a form where we can go and say, hey, this is going on, or I know there's a lot of properties being bought on here, or somebody in the DBA or my position can say, things are moving on this position, we need to be involved in it.
Quick point for that, the best way to find out what's going on is to go to these city council meetings, sit in on city council meetings, look at agendas, get on the list, go to subcommittee meetings, because that's public information. So a lot of the deals that are coming are being discussed in these subcommittee meetings and on these city council agendas that get put on consent agenda that don't come up for a formal one-by-one vote, that just get block voted and we don't even know about it because we're not reading, we're not looking for it. So just find out what day city councils meet on and go through their agenda. They have to send out their agenda beforehand, and then they also send a follow-up summary. I know the city of Birmingham has the city council has a list where every Friday or so, they send out the agenda that's coming up for the next week. And then they have a wrap-up summary, talk about what the highlights of the agenda. So it's just about finding out when the city councils meet, looking at the agendas, when do the subcommittees meet, and finding out their agendas as well.
Hey, thank you. Very good, man. Natasha?
When he was speaking, actually brought something up, cooperation among African Americans. I will project cooperation among African Americans, business and professional. We all know someone who does something, but to get these people to work together, and for us not to have so many chiefs, but to actually have team members, partnership. So that's something that we need to discuss, or what does that look like, how can we put that on, how can we start this, how can we get a cooperation of people, because we, obviously, we have a pool of talent here, we have everything under the spectrum on these boards. So how do we pool that, and how do we get our egos aside, that we work in someone, and that we're okay, that this person may know something, and if they give you a piece of information, it is not condescending, it's because, hey, this is my area of expertise, I'm trying to help you out, I'm trying to steer this. The other thing is, how do we get with our government to make sure that all of this money that's coming into the city, that so much of it is actually allocated, or some of these contracts are actually allocated to DBEs. We don't have that happen. A lot of people don't even know what a DBE is, or how you get that designation, because it's not real, like you have to apply for it. So how do we get our city, our government to say, hey, so much of what's going on has to be designated to DBEs? I mean, we're like, Birmingham was like 80% African American. So that the way that look, it should be these contracts that come in, it should represent what the city look like. We have too much talent for it. So how do we pressure our government to say so much of this money is allocated to DBEs?
I think the way you pressure government is support. You have to get the support base built, and once you get that support base built, then you're able to pressure government to doing what you want them to do.
Nathan?
Gentleman right here. You got an answer for that?
I have an answer and an observation. My name's Nathan Reed. I was here 10 years ago when we started this. We're having the same conversations now. Same conversations. But we've done nothing. I couldn't sit there any longer to understand the misinformation that has been presented. Is there a way to get certified? You must be certified to do these things. I've worked for Grassville, the largest general contractor in the state and in the Southeast. I've worked for a $1 billion company. I've started 2 businesses of my own. I'm currently employed with a brother that has a great company now. The fact is, what are you doing to move the needle? Policy changes lives. I ran 2 times for state senate, and everybody said, why you won't run for city council? Because you can't do anything in city council. You have to look for the evidence. Our policies are made in Montgomery. I know I was more qualified than the person that I ran against, but because, as I say, hood juice versus real juice. We look and we sop up hood juice every day, but nobody has the real juice until you're at the table. You understand? When you're at the table, you make changes. We have individuals that are at the table that are so afraid of helping you, you can't get in the door. These contracts, in 2004, I worked and did the estimate for Railroad Park. These deals are made way before you sit in a chair thinking about it. Because the table is made years in advance. What we have to do now is take these table sitting opportunities to look for the future, because it's not going to happen now. He knows that. McWayne Center was made 20 years before it was built. The Federal Reserve building, I did the estimate on it in 2005. It changed hands. That's been on the market. Nobody in this table knows about it because we're not being intentional about what the brother said. Understand the deals that are made, but if you don't understand how to make the deals, that's a part of the problem. But the question the brother said, how do you do it with your white counterparts? There are some out there that are willing to help us. It's about relationships. Don't be afraid of the person sitting next to you. You better know the person sitting next to you. Because if you don't know them, they can't help you in the door. When I was in Bransfield and Gordon, and when I was just at UAB, I increased the minority participation by 70% for just that particular opportunity. Because somebody has to know that you're at the table and open the doors. But if I don't know you're out there, I can't do anything to help you. And I might not be the only one that can help you. There are other people. Because UAB has a great opportunity. They have a proclamation that they will do 15% or more to strive. That's a minimum for minority participation. None of y'all knew about that. It was written by the Vice President of Finance. And some of the people at UAB got the letter and still don't care about the letter. So you have to do more. The School of Medicine is trying to, they get money for using minority participation at the end of the year to help their budget. But do you know what they need? Because you haven't done your research. We hadn't been intentional about moving the needle. So, I'm a bag down. I just want Mark will know, it was eating me up to being here 10 years ago when we started this. I'm glad to see one of the other family members here. But we didn't champion the cause to move the needle. You have the ability to do it. But let's get together on one accord and understand if you don't change the policies, you'll be here another 10 years. And don't put hood juice back in the political seats because they're filling their own pockets. Filling their own pockets. So,
Just in response, find out about these things. In every city, in every county, there's a planning commission. You know, you need to try to figure out when these meetings are. Just a second ago, I pulled up the Jefferson County Planning Commission schedule. It's all online. We just have to go look for it. Fairfield has one, Birmingham has one, Bessemer has one, you know, Jefferson County has one. It's out there, you know, so just want to share that real fast.
Just a quick question, how many business owners were in here? UAB, going back to the Department of Supplier Diversity, I believe you had mentioned, Demetria Scott, I just go ahead and toss her name out there. She's a fantastic individual. We actually started a program where DBEs, Disadvantaged Business Enterprises, get an intern from Collapse School of Business. We're in our second year of the program. It's growing. It's going to stay with UAB forever. And UAB actually just passed it where now business students have to intern. So if you're looking for capacity and if you're looking for connections, keep that in mind.
Stephanie, we can't hear you.
You don't have to worry about projecting.
Well, you're right. In reference to that, I went to that meeting, but what about the donation that's involved with that? Are they gonna do away with it for people that can't afford that? Because I need an intern bad, but they were saying it was $2,000.
Right, and so that's part of it. They want for the DBEs that participate to donate to this Collapse School of Business. That was done to prop up the pilot for that program. Now, right now, I don't know if, I'm sure they're gonna want companies to have some skin in the game.
Right.
I don't know what that number is. That's set above by, deans and all of that stuff.
Maybe they let you do a payment.
Again, we have a golden opportunity, right? We got a lot of people in here, a lot of professional people, a lot of skills, a lot of knowledge, a lot of know-how. We even have some money in this room. We're not really saying enough about how to utilize what's here. We talking about a lot of stuff that's outside of here. It's a lot of opposition. We gotta be real. There's a lot of opposition. We talk about the city council meeting, but city council meeting set at 9 a.m. on a Tuesday for a reason. So the people who work won't be there. So it's not as simple to say go to the meeting because people got jobs. Why did they move it on Saturday? So we gotta push these things, make these things real to us, not just words. Like we keep throwing out these catchphrases just to settle that question for that moment, but the reality behind those answers is not real. So we have resources and people and talents and skills inside this room. Black people, we need to come up with plans and strategies that we can utilize. The brother, he said he knows all the information he knows. This brother knows information. Organize to get that information to all these bodies in here so that we can do something that's going to be effective amongst ourselves, and let's stop trying to go outside of ourselves looking for an answer when you got these people here ready to do something for themselves.
Anybody else had a question?
I just want, to that point, again, going back to intentionality and collaboration. If I have to work a 9 to 5, I can't go to the council meeting, I need to partner with somebody who has
They can go.
flexibility. Go there, report, let us know what's going on, and then we'll use it in our strategy sessions on the weekend on both things. Intentionality and action.
This gentleman in the back had a question.
Hey, Deon, good to see you, man.
What's up, brother?
All right. My name is Ron Crenshaw. I live in the East Lake community, and as Deon probably can tell you, East Lake is one of these, kind of gentrification, kind of sort of communities, those with Norwood, Avondale, these type of areas. Well, one thing that we battle among our own people is perception and trust. We battle that internally. My mom taught me that if things ain't right in the house, it ain't gonna be right outside for us either. It's all in the mindset. Until we learn how to trust each other as people, and even in the business community, one thing that we battle is something they call competitive advantage. What competitive advantage does your business have in comparison to these that are getting the contracts? What are we doing to go that extra mile to actually get to the table? And are we prepared, for customer service and things of that nature? As the sister said over here, are we prepared when we get to the table to actually strive for excellence? These are some of the things we have to ask. One guy, I asked him, I said, well, he's a business owner. I said, well, what more do you take out of being a business owner? Serving your customers or being a business owner? He said, being a business owner. I said, well, what's the point of that if you don't really understand the concept of customer service and serving in the platform as a business owner? He liked the social aspect. He said, I own my own business. But when we looked at the numbers and looked at the market he was in, there's something they call commodity hell. Everybody was one. and people, some of you understand what I'm saying. He was in a business where it was easy to start it. He was in a lawn care business, but he did not have the intention to grow it. I said, well, who did you market with in the community? You come to these community meetings. We don't network, we don't talk, we don't trust each other. Our perception of our own communities is that we won't drive through them at night. But these white people are moving in them. Bar none, I paid $16,000 for my house when I moved from East Atlanta, but it was strategic. My house probably would be worth probably $175,000 in 5 to 6 years. So those are the type of things that when we come to the table, those are things we have to understand strategically as a people. My folks are scared. They said, well, man, I don't know if I can come to East Lake. But now I ride through East Lake, I see black people, but I'm seeing a lot of these white people. You can understand why. And also supporting our black business. What's our perception of our black business? I had a contractor that came. I had a Latino, a white, and an African-American gentleman. And I'll make this short. The Latino guy, he actually came in, gave me a good proposal. I took him out to consider it. The Caucasian gentleman came in, gave me a proposal, said I could consider it. I would wait on that brother. I was like, man, let him come with it. Let me hear something. But he came in and actually tried to be cool. Like, hey man, trying to be cool with me. But I'm a professional. You dealing with my money. I'm not gonna be cool with you like that. I went with the Latino brother. He charged more than the African-American gentleman, but my service was more to me than that type of relationship. So those are the things we have to keep in mind doing business as a community and dealing with each other as a people.
That's something Tasha hit. Yeah, she brought it up earlier. Anybody like to add to that or have a question? And it's open for.
Just let me talk. I'm hearing a lot of the need for training to come up. And again, not to just toss stuff on the Urban League, but I don't know if that is an initiative or an idea worth running with. And not just training in certification, not just training in networking, but training on the boards, how to get on boards, how to perform, how to serve on boards, right? Robert's Rules of Order. Just the simple stuff, but it's a small thing to move the needle to help start getting this access, to start getting this.
What else you got besides boards?
Oh, committees, man. I'm speaking from my experience, right? Like I got into what I'm doing now because when I came back to Birmingham, I served as the, for Art Walk as the volunteer coordinator, and that opened up some doors. And then Paint the Town Red, which is an initiative of the Red Cross, they came calling. Then I started serving with the Community Foundation and the Grants Review and Evaluation Committee, and I saw what requirements and criteria they were looking at before they gave out money to nonprofits, right? So all of these connections and all of these relationships, and now I'm in REV Birmingham. But going back to what I did initially led to where I'm doing now.
Can you and that brother right there use all these skills y'all got to organize these people in here to get done what y'all talking about?
I'll make a short end point if I'm okay with that. I've watched this brother, and I'm a little bit older than Dion. He said it best. The best thing that can happen to anybody in this room is the energized initiative. Don't wait on what's coming to you. You gotta go after it. I'll share something with you, and I won't, and I'm being bold. The company that I formerly worked for, they are now my clients. I'm proud to say that. I didn't ask them, I didn't beg them. I went to the table and I got what belonged to me. And we're all in vast arenas, businesses. I'm 6 years strong from that company, and I have not looked back one time. And so that's just one of the things. And so when people see me, it ain't because I'm Chris Shepard or I'm Shep. It's because I'm gonna be everywhere you don't want me to be. And you gonna see me. Ask that brother. Every time, I'm gonna be everywhere. Every time you look up, I'm gonna scare the hell out of you. And you're gonna wonder why. This brother's everywhere. I don't have time for you to tell me what I can and can't do. I know you got the money. I'm gonna warm up to you, and then I'm gonna figure out how I get in the door and get it. So that was on.
Yeah, to add to that, bro, like you said, you just gotta go get it. I mean, everybody that's in this room, like, nothing was given to us.
Yeah, I got it though, but it ain't about me.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But,
I
you
got
know,
2 businesses, but it's not about me. But as long as we think individual, then we're gonna have individual successes. But the masses is gonna still be in the same spot. So we have to think collective. If we want the black people to move, then we need to think black people. As long as we think individual, everybody got a success story to tell. I came out of prison, did 9 years, and been in business myself for 10 years. A success story. I can throw that. I never say that. I've never said that in public, because it doesn't matter. We have to think holistic. We got to do something for us, or else we're gonna keep on losing. Because they do something for them. Like the brother said, those plans are made years ahead. They made amongst themselves. They get in these women, be all them, and they plan 2 years or 10 years ahead to do something for themselves. And we sitting here talking about individual success. That don't make sense. We got to do better than that.
All right, we're getting ready to close out. We're gonna take one more question, and then we'll gotta go get on stuff.
So what exactly is REV Birmingham? I mean, I even talked about I'm sure there's a lot of people that, because again, he talked about training, he talked about that you got the edge to new development. So for this group, what exactly is REV Birmingham? What will we come to REV Birmingham to do, or what is it?
Right, yeah, and sorry for not covering that. Everybody heard of Operation New Birmingham, ONB? So REV is basically the extension of that. Operation New Birmingham merged with Main Street Birmingham about 3 years ago. So at the core of it, try to revitalize neighborhoods, fill vacant spaces, and grow sustainable businesses. That is it at the end of the day. I'm over the growing sustainable businesses part. So that's why I started talking about, in particular, the small businesses, the creative, the lifestyle kind of business. But I mean, we help anybody, whether it's a service-based business, it doesn't matter. And so I try to make sure that folks have the right training before they venture out there on their own with an idea that is not a good idea, right? You have an idea, you're like, oh, everybody's gonna love this, and you kind of sit down with it and realize it's either before it's time or it's too late. And a lot of folks don't have access to the capital that they need to start the businesses. So it makes much more sense to kind of take a slower, methodical approach to it, as opposed to saying, okay, I'm gonna sink $50,000 into this vision and then it fails, right? Now you gotta deal with bankruptcy, or that's money that could have circulated within the community. That's money that could have been gained interest. All right, so that's what I try to do in a nutshell. Just make sure folks have all of the relationships, the resources, and the tools to start those businesses.
What I'm hearing, so basically, revitalization, you said, makes your business successful, got it, you know, so if a new business owner had an idea for in, they would come to REV Birmingham.
I would love for it to. We just had a brother, Brian Hawkins, he actually went through our big pitch competition. We gave out $25,000. He didn't win it, but he had an idea for a coffee and a bar in Inslee. And we helped some folks over there now, so it doesn't matter where it is. But hopefully, if they're thinking about starting something, yeah, we'll be a resource for them.
And then as far as revitalization, what is y'all angle in that? Are y'all buying homes? Are y'all just?
No, we don't buy homes. The one project that we did do, catalytic development. I'm sorry, am I going over? Oh, okay. So over in Woodlawn, we have a building called Social Venture. Before we came in, it was just this derelict structure. It used to be a warehouse. It was a liability for the community. Nothing was being done there. Came in, bought it, re-envisioned it, and now it's kind of taken on this hub for social entrepreneurship and nonprofits. So just again, and now we got folks coming down to Woodlawn who otherwise would not have had a reason to come to Woodlawn. And so now that means a more customer base for the businesses that are around there. So that's what we try to do from that catalytic development, that real estate standpoint.
Okay, I'm gonna.
I have one more question. Let me take the last question real quick. So, Deon, if someone wants to get involved with REV Birmingham, how would they go about interfacing? Because, for instance, I think you guys have a Young Pioneers group. Is that supposed to kind of let people know how they can plug in? You know.
Well, I mean, shoot, hit me up or go on the website. You know, the Young Pioneers thing is kind of it's like a young professional thing, but they have a different mission. It's more so to kind of celebrate the folks that are making change. Again, that's not to say you shouldn't be a part of it, just to set the right expectations. It is another seat at the table. BBA, they have a lot of different councils. I think that's a great resource and a great connection to be plugged into. And like I said, all these different committees around town.
We're good. This lets me know that we're interested in how to be a part of business, how to be a part of this money that's happening in Birmingham. This is not the last meeting. And yes, this is why we brought people together, to talk about this stuff, because we are not aware. And this is not being, one of the things that I think about, how do we learn about, business opportunities? That might be the next topic. It might be we bring in diversity reps and we bring in people over the planning commission because we need to know. We need to know. And we just don't know because we've been taught wrong. We've been taught how to go to school, how to get a job, and a lot of us are living paycheck to paycheck with PhDs, with master's degrees. We have no idea how to run businesses and how to make money and how to pass it over to our families. So this is not the end. So I want to thank everybody. We got a few announcements we're going to make, and so definitely thank you.
Hey, I would like to first of all thank Deontée Gordon for coming in, blessing us with that. And also, thank you all. It was a great dialogue, and like Brian mentioned, that's the purpose of us hosting this type of discussion. So we can learn from one another, and it's okay to disagree. It's okay to say, hey, you spoke about this, but we need to know about this. That's what we want to know. So next month, we may have Mr. Shabazz come in and educate us on the people. Natasha Ivey, Cheryl, Mr. Nathan Reed, because we do need to know what's going on. And more importantly, we need to learn from one another, from people. And I'm not, I'm not saying this in a bad way, but we need to learn from people that look like us, because we feel that we will hope they have our interests at hand, and not just telling us something. But I'm gonna say this in closing on that topic. I'm in banking. And one thing I've learned about banking, everything is based on dollars. Money doesn't care what color you are. People with money don't care if you're black, green, yellow, purple. When it comes to economics, if you have money, you're at the table. If you don't understand money, you're not at the table, because you can't hold a conversation with them. Like Mr. Reed mentioned, deals are done, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years ahead of time. You go to City Hall, and most municipalities is a plan there. In most places in the lobby, it's a plan that what this city will look like in the next 10 or 20 years. That's how we have to think. We have to quit thinking week to week, day to day. What am I going to do this weekend? What am I going to do for 4th of July? We need to think 2025. That's our mindset. And And that's something as Birmingham Urban League, we want to continue doing this. We want this room to be packed out at every event, every social, every whatever that we have. We want people like yourself to be a part and to bring up in a nutshell. And I appreciate you all coming out. In closing remarks, I'd like to try to stay on time on tomorrow night, unless the weather tells us something different. We're going to try to meet up at Southern Kitchen just for a little social hour. We don't have a spot or a space reserved, but around 5:30, we're looking just to kind of go up, mingle, network. Some of these gentlemen will be in. You can pull them to the side, even tonight if you want to catch somebody to the side and get more information. I'm sure they don't mind doing that as well. Also, on next Friday, January 29th, we are hosting our annual Summer Club event. What that is, another outlet. Someone mentioned about how do you know, how do you be a part? Just being in those type of environments, network, and I'm not necessarily saying the Summer Club, it can be anywhere. It can be the boys club. Just get in an environment, get in a circle, network, get out, mingle. Don't be a stranger, go up to people. You know, community service. That's how you network, that's how you learn, and that's how you meet people. I did an event probably this past summer, and we were pulling weeds up out the ground. I looked over, it was the CEO of Protective Insurance over in Homewood. This guy was on the side of me, and we were just holding a general conversation. What you doing this weekend, Nat? You know, how your family doing? You got any kids? Come to find out the CEO of Protective. Wouldn't have never thought that. I'm just at an event. So my point is, we can meet these people. We can put ourselves in that circle. It's up to us to get out and get in that circle, in my opinion. So next Friday, for non-members, we are asking a $10 donation. The Summer Club will also be running specials for anyone that may be interested in joining. They'll have, of course, representatives there. They will be waiving the application fee, and I'll tell you, normally, that application fee is $500. They will be waiving it if you all come out on next Friday night. It's at the Harvard Center. The elevator's on the right-hand side. Depending on if you come through the front door, they go up to the 31st floor, and it's an awesome environment. The Summer Club itself is awesome. All right, so I would like you to come out. Next, well, our AG Gaston Conference is coming back up. Another opportunity to get out and network. One thing about this conference, in particular this year on February 16th and 17th, the keynote speaker is Mark Moriel. How many people in here, by the show of hands, know Mark Moriel? Mark Moriel is the CEO of the National Urban League. He's going to be here in Birmingham at our back door. You can go to the AG Gaston website, aggaston.com. You can register for the conference. Again, that's an awesome event. So if you plan on attending, please go in and register. I think they may still be doing early bird registration, I'm not sure. But just go to the website and learn more about that. Last thing, on February the 6th, from 9 until 3 o'clock, we will be hosting our first time homebuyer seminar here at the Urban League from 9 until 3 o'clock. And typically what that consists of is learning the process of purchasing a home. There's more to it than just saying, I'm gonna go buy a home. I'm looking at a home. We gotta understand things like inspection. You know, it's okay to walk in a home and say it's wonderful and nice, but what we can't see, I don't believe unless we got x-ray, is behind sheetrock. You know, we don't understand plumbing, we don't know wiring. So knowing to get an inspector, knowing what type of questions to ask, those are some things that we'll be going over in our home buyer seminar. How to qualify for mortgage. You know, understand ratios, debt to income. You know, are you over leveraged? Just because you pay your bills and have a few dollars left over after the paycheck doesn't necessarily mean you're okay. You know, just understand that debt to income. And the importance of insurance for your investment. You know, if you decide to build a home, having builder's insurance to protect you. You know, you build that home, they get the frame up, and God forbid a fire happens. Who covers that? Not the builder. You know, so knowing those type of things. So that'll be a great event. If you'd like to come out again, February 6th from 9 a.m. until 3 p.m. And then lastly, an action plan. Mr. Reed mentioned 10 years ago, and I know we have some founders here. Ms. Ashley Newton, if you raise your hand, she's a founder. Nathan Reed, Markham and Sigler, and I hope I'm not missing, I think Dr. Anthony Hood was around. We have founding members who created the Urban League. This year we're celebrating our 10th year anniversary. That's how long we've been around. That speaks volumes. How many young black professional groups have been around that long? How many have made it past the 3 to 4 to 5 year mark? Mr. Ed May, I know he was around. So we have founding members that are still here, believe in the cause, and understand. But at the end of the day, if we don't put any action behind it, we just had a conversation for the heck of it, right? So in order to put action behind it, that's why organizations like the Birmingham Urban League and our young professionals, we exist so we can get out in the community. Look at all this crime going on. I mean, you gotta live literally on another planet and not realize what's going on with our youth today. You know, what are some things we can do as an organization, as an individual? I see everybody on Facebook talking about it. I see everybody at work chattering about it. But nobody's saying, hey, let's go out in the community and talk to the kids. Let's find out why or where they're going wrong. It's easy to point the finger and say, well, their dad wasn't around. You know, mom let them do what they want to do. I mean, let's be realistic. A lot of us in here grew up in neighborhoods with single parents. Some of us may have grew up in a single parent home. And we turned out fine. So is that really the reason why kids are going left field? Because it wasn't a dad around or a mom around? You know, so those are some things, and we're going to continue to have these type of conversations. So please follow us on Facebook, Instagram. I know right now we're doing a Periscope.
You sure are.
So we're probably taping it live now. It'll be back on. And just kind of follow up with us for updates. Again, on Saturday, we will put up the event on Facebook. Please RSVP if you plan to attend, which I hope everyone in here is, the Summit Club event, just so we can make sure we get a head count on everything. Is there any questions?
She got a question.
Oh, I'm
For
sorry.
the first time home buyer seminar, will you receive a certificate at the end? Like, is it an official seminar?
Well, typically with the, and that's a great question. Typically with our home buying seminars, is the certification, it's a process. It's not just a one-time event. But for the people in here, if you, Kimberly Callen, her number is 326-0162. You can give her a call, or you can just call the Urban League main, they'll direct you. If you want to get more details about the home buying seminar. But it is a process. Yes, ma'am.
Can you repeat that number?
It is 326-0162. And her name is Kimberly Callen. And it's okay. I mean, we have even some YPs that, you know, went through this program and purchased their first home. You know, sometimes we're too proudful to accept things or step on a limb because we don't want everybody to know our business. But it's okay. We all need help. Any other questions?
I just want to add one or two things. By this weekend, I'll be updating the website, bullup.org, bullyp.org. So I'll be putting all types of events on there for the next probably 2 to 3 months. So bullup.org. So if you're not on Facebook, bullup.org, you can learn about anything. As a reminder, if you're interested in any of the committees, you know, community service, civic engagement, this was a professional development event. You know, fundraising, fund development, marketing, PR, social activity. So if you're interested in something, please don't rush out tonight. You know, find somebody that's a part of the organization, ask them about the different things, and let's be more active.
And last, and I promise we'll let you go. Our National Senior Director for Advocacy is here from the Urban League. We're looking for a advocacy committee. So surely, after all this conversation we had tonight, that committee ought to be packed to the gills. Advocacy. So if you're interested in that, see me after the meeting personally. Mr. Matthew. A lot. It goes back to understanding the policy. You know, a lot of times, let me back up. The Urban League, a lot of times we don't understand or don't get involved at that level. We don't understand what's going on in Montgomery. So we think everything is okay because I'm okay. In reality, it's not. So typically with that advocacy group, and our national director says she can correct me if I'm wrong or expound on it. But a lot of that is just you know, getting us to understand different types of policies and procedures as it relates to the government. But in a nutshell.
And you can definitely see me if you have more questions, not to labor them.
Any other questions? All right, this meeting is adjourned at 7:14. Thank you all so